Hello, everybody, and welcome to the LFC Transfer Room live stream with myself, Kings and Race. Thank you guys so much for joining us on this Tuesday evening. Lots of news to come in today. Obviously, we've Roy Keane's comments on Trent Alexander-Arnold over the international break. We have Fabrizio Romano confirming our interest in the Benfica left back, formerly a Man United. And then also we have Ian Doyle from the Liverpool Echo mentioning that Zubimendi Part 2 may be a case over the January window, although I strongly don't think so. And yeah, a couple of other bits and pieces as well. Did I miss out on anything there? 1 second now. Oh, yes.
Tuchel.
Yeah, well... Thomas Tuchel and his appointment as the new English manager as well, which should be very fun to watch and see him absolutely lose his shit with the players. But before we get into everything, make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Make sure you have your notification bell on for all future streams and videos so that you never miss out as well. But yeah, we'll basically jump straight into it. Roy Keane's comments on Trent Alexander-Arnold over the international break has caused an awful lot of ire amongst Liverpool fans, firstly, because why would Roy Keane ever be biased against a Liverpool player? It just beggars belief as to why. However, he said, and I quote, "You give time to Trent because his decision-making and quality of passing is fantastic, but I can't believe how bad he is defensively, and against better teams, he'll be punished. If you saw him the other night against Greece defending, it looked like he'd never played right back before. And yet earlier in the season, when he played against one of the best prospects at left wing in Rafael Leao, he put him in his pocket." But Kings, is there any truth to, and this also is quite funny as well, is there any truth to Roy Keane's comments at all, or has he forgot that Kyle Walker also plays right back and is 3 to 4 times worse?
I'm going to say he's 90% wrong, right? So he's basically wrong. But I will say that there is odd times that Trent does have a brain fart. And he's just kind of like not quite where he should be. He's out of position. And, you know, people go past him and you think, well, what the hell were you doing there? You're the defender. But at the same time, I cut him a lot of slack because he's so good going forward with his crosses and, you know, pinpoint accuracy for 95, 99%. So I think to myself, well, you know, you've got to give him some slack. He's not going to be perfect at everything, but I think Roy Keane is a bit over dramatic, which you'd never believe. And like you say, he's not exactly Liverpool's #1 fan either. You know, it's like Jamie has just put in the chat there. He's had 4 man of the matches, I think, in 5 England matches. So it's like that says a lot. He can't be getting man of the match if he's that crap, can he? You know, it's to me, yes, he does wonder 5-10% of the time, and you think, okay, you're a bit out of position there. But overall, he's a solid defender and he's a fantastic player going forward and passing the ball. So to me, I think he's talking pretty much rubbish.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I think he's talking rubbish. Like, he has lapses in defensive duties, but realistically, show me a fullback that doesn't. Fullbacks these days are just they're there for attacking more or less than anything else, realistically, especially in today's day and age. But it's just a funny one, in my own opinion. Race, I'll throw it to yourself as well in relation to Roy Keane's comments. Is there any sort of value in the words that he's saying, or is this just purely a let's get some clicks going, let's just shit on the Liverpool player kind of a thing from a United man? It seems like it's just he forgets that he's not on the overlap at times, which is a very unbiased show.
Well, he certainly got our attention once again, but I just don't understand why there's just always some sort of dialogue around Trent and his defensive abilities. Like, yeah, we know he's not a perfect defender by any means. He definitely has his lapses, but he's by no means a liability in that position. And we know how great he is going forward, creativity, passing range, and all of that. Like, he's incredible, and with a free kick as well. So I don't understand why there's this sentiment that need to break him down or just try and mitigate, just highlight a weak point in his game, which again is no secret. But he's clearly shown he's been in our team forever. He's part of our the best Liverpool teams we've had, as a key player. Like he's proven his place as a professional, both for club and country. And this might be on the backs of the Euros this summer where he's put in a midfield role. It just wasn't working well for him. Maybe some of that was his fault. Some of it was the team around him. There's just I don't know why there's this push to again just on him. I think. I mean, he walks into every other national team in the world except for England for some reason because of Southgate's been there forever now, and now Tuchel will be coming in. So be curious to see his usage and what hopefully he can become a mainstay in the England team.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just confusing to me as an outside perspective here. I mean, for England and English fans, I'm not sure what the sentiment is for them, but obviously Roy Keane having some bias here in his analysis, but it's just confusing. I don't understand why this comes up. It's like twice a year this comes up, about his defensive duties, and we know, but we don't care because he offers so much more on the pitch as a player, and so it's at least he's playing, playing the left back too, which is an interesting spot. But I mean, even if he did, I didn't personally watch the game, so even if he did have some lapses as a left back, he hasn't played left back before, so if he has a few mistakes, that's understandable, and they still won the game. He still got a goal. I'm not sure how exactly this conversation kind of came up with Roy Keane. I think maybe it's just we're getting a little international break fatigue or whatnot. But they can continue to talk. We know the greatness. Look, the less he plays for England, the more he'll play for us. He doesn't get injured on international break, and then he'll come back fresh for us. So that's how I see it sometimes. But we know. At least for us, us Liverpool fans, we get to enjoy Trent. There's absolutely never a question that he is one of the first names on our team sheet, vice captain as well. So as long as we appreciate him, they can say all they want.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. It's Jonathan. It just seems to be a United man shitting on a Liverpool man. That there's no real substance behind the words or anything really to listen to in what Roy Keane has said about Trent over the international break. I think I mentioned the quote just before you arrived, but what he said is you give time to Trent because his decision making and quality of passing is fantastic, but I can't believe how bad he is defensively, and against better teams he'll be punished. Okay, it's not like he plays in the Premier League week in, week out. If you saw him the other night versus Greece defending, it looked like he'd never played right back before. Is that level of criticism founded at all, or would you be of a similar opinion of Kings and Race as well?
It's because the English defense is bad, so it will make everyone else look bad in a poor game as well. But it's been brilliant for us, and that's what matters. He's just mad that Manchester don't have that quality. I can put it simple as that.
Yeah, that's essentially it. It is realistically that's essentially it. But yeah, just sort of looking into some of the comments that we have here, and just Roy needs to stick the ad on Sky. He does. Some little news coming from the Netherlands, as well as Feyenoord's video analyst Roderick van der Ham is set to join Arne Slot's Liverpool staff, so that's going to be very, very good. And then also Trey Nyoni also has signed his first pro contract with Liverpool as of today. There was a bit of discourse in the group chat today about when we might see him in getting regular team football. Race, when do you see that happening? The kid's about 17 at the moment. Personally, I'd not allow him anywhere near the first team until he's nearly 20, just to allow him to develop into his body.
Yeah, I think it's... Yeah, you just give him some time, maybe a loan deal, something like that. It was on the cards, and I just don't see an immediate role for him in the team. I think it's with these youngsters, you always want to unless they're absolute world beaters and deserve to break in, then you obviously change things. But I don't see that at the moment. So you want to take some time and I talked about this over the summer all the time, was the new manager coming in. He's evaluating the squad and seeing some of these, everyone in the squad and the youngsters as well. And, he obviously likes what he's seen, and he's, got a little run in the preseason, and just one to keep an eye on, but certainly, a few years away from having a real true impact on the team, I feel.
Yeah. I think so as well. I think it's just a matter of time before he actually starts breaking through. I just really hope that we don't push him through too quick. Jonathan, would you be of a similar opinion to myself of leaving him on very sporadic cup dates until he actually develops a little bit more, or else we'll end up with a Lamine Yamal case where he's going to start getting injured while his body is still developing?
I think he has been unlucky with the cup ties we have had. We drew West Ham in the first game. If we would have gotten an easier team, I think he would have been in the talks for maybe starting. He's an exciting talent, but all the youngsters who start too early get the growth injuries, like Cade did, Doak did. Maybe let him have some, just develop by himself. And if the chance is there and is good enough to, if it is an injury crisis, we can get used for him. Other than that, it's no rush to get him to starting 11.
Yeah, I've no rush of it either. Kings, are you in any rush to get him into the starting 11, or how do you see him developing? Where do you think he'll start getting his regular first team minutes?
I think definitely it's going to be a couple of years. As we've seen with other players, if you bring them in, or most of them anyway, if you bring them in too early, it can stunt their passage, I suppose, towards the first team. I mean, look at Stefan Bajcetic. He's had a year out. I just think there was a lot of pressure on him quite quick. Just going off on that tangent, sorry. And then, he gets injured and he's out for a long time. He's almost starting from scratch again. He's got to convince a new coach, go out on loan, etc. And I don't want the same to happen to Nyoni as well. So I would be more happy if he's kept on the sidelines at the back in the reserves, etc. And then that way he's got time to develop his game, like you said. One interesting thing, I went to see the Sevilla game, which was Slot's first, the last pre-season game, first at Anfield, and he came on. And I've got to be honest, it was like looking at a 12-year-old running around in Neil Ruddock's kit. It was hanging off him. It was ridiculously too. And I thought, God, he doesn't look old enough to even be on the field. He looked that young, and his kit was a bit big, and I thought he really needs to fill out a bit and get ready for the man's game, I suppose, and then hopefully, and people said if you're young enough, if you're good enough, then it doesn't matter your age, I suppose. But in the realistic terms, there's very few that come through at 16, 17 and they're world beaters. They have to develop their game, get used to the coaching style, etc. And so I would prefer at least another couple of years in the background, and maybe the odd sporadic 5 to 10 minutes a year just to give him a taste, to keep him interested, to a point of, this is what you're aiming at, lad. That kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just blooding them in. And as Jonathan said, we're just a little bit unlucky with the cup ties that we got.
Yeah.
If we get through past Brighton, we might get a handy one that he might be able to come in and get a lot of minutes there. But realistically, it's just a bit of a shit draw, unfortunately. But it's great to see him signing his first professional contract, and I'm very happy to see how he develops. Similarly to Rio that we got from Chelsea too. I'm very, very excited to see how he develops as well. And I can't wait to see him get his minutes in the first team too. But we're going to move on to the next topic of this evening. But before we do, make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Make sure you have your notifications on for all future streams and videos so that you never miss out as well. Fabrizio Romano has confirmed that Liverpool do have a very strong interest in the Benfica left-back, Alvaro Carreras, formerly of Man United. And it seems to be, he's a big guy too, big left back. He's 6'1", about 70 kg. He's a big, strong guy. And it seems to be that all the noise is coming from Portugal, that we are very interested in him. And obviously, Romano is well mentioning it too. Jonathan, as a left back prospect, even though he was ex-Man United, how do you view this player, and how do you view a possible transfer for him maybe in the January transfer window?
I've been saying for a few months now that we need a new left back, or at least someone that could be able from next season to maybe challenge Robo. Simicas have been good when he has been, like, when you have needed him, but I just think it would be a good future. I don't know the English word for it, but a good signing for the future. Either way, to get a new left back, and to piss off United fans even more, I would love it because they didn't want to sell him this summer.
Yeah.
But Benfica did. They had a clause because they loaned him or something. I don't know what the price is mentioned, but he looks good. He's 21, 22.
I'll tell you now what age he is actually. He is 21. Well, he's going to be 22 in about 100 days, thereabouts. So he'd be 22 in March of next year.
Yeah. So why not? If they already are looking for him, it's obviously a player that Edwards and Hughes are thinking it's good enough to maybe next season to be challenging for that starting 11. And if United aren't interested in cashing out on the buyback clause, why not?
Yeah, exactly. That is exactly it. Give me 1 second now. Yeah. Paul asking here for a bit of stats on him. And I'll do you one better than that. I'll compare you to what he is with Robertson right now, if you give me 1 second. We are going to present. I'm going to share some screens, and we're going to go here. So if that will allow me to share, it should. And we'll get rid of this brand and let everybody have a look. So in red, we have Andy Robertson in the last 365 days. And in blue, we have Alvaro Carreras in the last 365 days, both against fullbacks across all of the leagues in Europe currently at the moment. Race, it seems pretty much a like for like. We seem to have found a 21-year-old Andy Robertson.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty similar. I'm trying to look at this chart here.
I'll zoom in terms of like,
in terms of just looks like, going forward, he's slightly a little less than Robertson, which, not too surprising. But then you look at the take-ons there, passes, forward, dribblers, all that. Aerial, of course, is I mean, like you said, he's 6'1", right? So so that makes sense of aerially. I mean, that's, you expect to see that. So yeah, it looks, I mean, that is really promising to see. Of course, now the obvious thing to point out is being in the Portuguese league versus the Premier League. There's always that question of players coming over, but as we've shown in the past, dipped in the Portuguese league hasn't scared us off. So yeah, I agree that future left back is certainly on the horizon. If not this summer or maybe next summer. Robertson's getting up there in age. Tsimikas is kind of plateaued as a player. He is what he is. He's not a long-term starter for us, I don't think. I think you certainly want to consider bringing in the next left back if it's not someone from your own academy. You start looking abroad, and the reports are that we're interested. So, and it makes sense, that we are interested in a left back. That is a position where Robertson's getting up there in age. What is he? 30, 31 now. I mean, he's how many more years can he give you at a top end level? He's been such a regular for us for so long. He's had a couple longer term injuries. He's been out for a couple months here and there. I know although the collarbone he had last year was obviously a kind of a fluky-ish injury, but yeah, it's that's good to see. I'm not sure what the price range for
42 million was what he was quoted at.
That's pretty steep, I think, for a left back. But if you like you look at this chart here and he's got a similar profile to Robertson, plus you have that added height there, which is always a good thing to have if it doesn't hamper him in any other way. It's one to keep an eye on. United having that buyback clause. I don't think buyback clauses have ever been triggered, or I can't remember last time a club has ever done that. So if it is a cheap enough deal in United, whatever their situation is, I don't know. Just to prevent us from getting them, that would be kind of funny.
They're in the market for a left back as well. You see, so that's the issue that I see. Because they have that cheaper buyback clause, it might be the ones that pull the trigger on that rather than us forking over 42 million for them realistically.
Yeah, and I guess that would be kind of a hold up here. So, but again, I can't remember the last time a buyback clause has been I've seen that active. So, but if this really is the case for United, that might be a good piece of business on them to activate that. But yeah, looks pretty promising. So, curious to see if there's any more developments on this front. Of course, we're in that window, that period of before the January. I don't see this as like a January move for us. This is probably something for next summer. So we're just gonna keep we're just kind of in a little bit of a dead period right now in terms of transfers. So we'll see if there's any more developments with this.
Yeah, it is. It's one of them very interesting ones, and I hope it does come to fruition because I quite like him myself. 15 million. No, the Jamie this is the guy you're thinking about from Red Star Belgrade that we'll get onto in a little bit as well. But Kings, looking at that, it seems that it's quite literally a mirror image of him. However, we have been spurned in some people's opinions by the Portuguese league before, and obviously you see people leaving Benfica, such as João Neves, is gone to PSG and is kind of faded away into meh. Nobody's really heard about him. Nobody's really watched him. He's not really lighting the world alight. Obviously, Benfica sold us Nunes as well, who's been the ire of many a fan with his finishing issues. But looking at this seems to be somewhat of a real deal here. Just looking at the pure numbers of it. Now, I've watched some of him myself, and he's quite good. And there's a compilation on our Twitter page as well of his game against Atletico Madrid, which is quite impressive in my own opinion. But how do you view him, Kings? He's 6'1", big stocky lad. Seems to be the left centre back hybrid that we could use realistically. Looking
at Andy Robertson, first of all, I mean, we felt extremely lucky with him because he was £8 million. It's like he didn't cost an arm and a leg. So if people are going to compare him or compare that price, they're not going to get anywhere near that in today's market for somebody who's got the longevity of what Robertson has. It's very unlikely anyway. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't happen now. As I said on previous shows, a standard average player now, you're probably talking £25 million. Whether they're good or not is a different thing. But that's kind of the going rate for somebody who's just average. 42 million. I mean, if you work that out, over 7 years, say that he stayed with the club 5 or 7 years or something like that, you're talking what, 6-7 million a season kind of transfer fee. It's not that big, really. Looking at the stats you've put up there, actually look really, really good, to be fair. 21 years of age, and I think he might be, like you say, he might be the real deal. At 21, potentially, you could have him for 10 years. As a solid, if he's that good. And it's like, that is something to behold nowadays, having players who literally play most of their career at one club. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen, but if you can get him young like that and really bed him in and he feels like, well, I'm the number one here and Liverpool are doing well, there's no reason why he can't stay, as we said, like 6-7 years minimum. That's a good chunk of his career if he's that good. And looking at them comparable stats there, I think, you know what? He might be somebody that you should go in for. As Jonathan and Race have alluded to, I don't think he'd come in January. I think it's more of a summer thing. The fact that Man United let him go as this young kid doesn't put me off, because I'd never heard of his name until recently. So it's like, well, he obviously didn't cut it there, and that happens in a lot of teams. Even lower down the pyramid now, especially in English leagues. Players get released because they're not good enough, they're too short, they're not fast enough, etc. And they go on to have a great career somewhere else. So it doesn't mean he can't come here just because he wasn't good enough for someone else in the Premier League. Different coaches have different views. And looking at them stats that he's already starting to put out at 21, it's very impressive. And like you say, 6 foot odd, he could move over to left-sided centre-back as well if needed. So it becomes versatile then, and it becomes even more of a good deal on the transfer fee, really, for about £40 million. So, yeah, if they think they can get him and he's good enough, go for it. I think it'd be a good deal.
Yeah, I think so as well. It's going to be one of them that it's just, I think it's future planning. As you said, it could be the one for the next 10 years. And if it is 42 million for 10 years, we're paying for 4.2 million a year on average. Simple as. I don't see much of a downside in this. I'd like to see a little bit more of him, and I'll watch a little bit more of him this season. And hopefully, these rumors and these links continue into second half of the season and into summer. But other than that, we'll just keep moving on with everything else, because that is more or less all that we have on Alvaro Carreras, not Calveras, excuse me. So we'll stop sharing that and we'll pull back up our little outline here. So that's good. With as Jonathan said, we do need a new left back. He's been wanting one for quite a while. And exactly as Paul mentions here, imagine what we will be paying if we try to buy Bradley or Kwanzaa. You're looking at in excess of £60 million each for the two of them, given how well they've gone on about it. But we're going to move on to the next part of it, and we're going to say about Martin Zubimendi and how this saga has continued through the season. Now, Zubimendi has come out and said in many an interview that he's not moving anywhere. Then Man City interest came back out and he's like, no, not going anywhere, I'm all right. And now there's been the likes of David Lynch, Ian Doyle, and many other journalists that have reliably said they can see Liverpool re-entering that market, in the January transfer window if Zubimendi wants to move. Now, Jonathan, are you convinced by this at all, or is this something that we just all kind of need to move on from and stop trying to get clicks out of it?
The Liverpool train only stops once.
Yeah.
He didn't want to sign in the summer. Okay. We only asked one. We only asked one time.
Yeah, you're right.
If he says openly, it was a mistake, I want to join Liverpool.
Yeah,
I can maybe consider accepting him into the club, but that's the reality. We only knock once.
Yeah. No, you're not wrong. I agree with that, and I like that philosophy about ourselves as well. That it's the one time, and that was very evident with Andre last summer. Kings, that we were like, look, here's €40 million, we want him now, and he was like, no, I want to stay. And we were like, cool, no problem. We went and bought Gravenberch for the same money, and we haven't looked back since, realistically. So
now Andre's at the Wolves. So
yeah. And Andre is at Wolves, where he was linked with Fulham and Wolves previously as well, and went for half the price and has just been fine and okay. Do you see any sort of resurgence of these rumors and links, or do you see us moving for him again in January, Kings? I know we've been on about it for the past couple of months, Eve, and it's like, just let the man die.
I was going to say similar. It's kind of like I'm bored of the conversation of it, because he didn't want to come, or even if he did, he was convinced otherwise. So he didn't want to come enough in my book. And I just look at it now, and like Jonathan said, let's just move on. It's like, go for somebody else. Unless he expresses that, he comes out and really says it, I'm sorry, I really want to come and play at Anfield, which he's never going to do now. Because if he come out and said that publicly, and Liverpool still turn around and say, no, okay, we're not going to bother, then that puts him off any other team on the planet, pretty much, because it'll just be like, well, you don't want to come to us. So he's never going to say it publicly, even if he does feel it, and I can't see it happening. So I think it's just a case of forget all about it. Unfortunately, I think he would have been a great signing, but it's one of them. It's just like, let's not talk about it too much, to be honest. Now let's look at the future and see who else possibly can maybe be in the squad along with Gravenberch, because to be fair to the lad, he's done really well. He seems to have found a niche in the team that suits him. The manager's happy with him, or the head coach, as we have to say now. It's just a case of stick with what we got, or look elsewhere from Zubimendi. I'm not bothered about it anymore.
Yeah, I'm not either. It's literally that. Like, as Jamie has mentioned here, even Slot said, made his decision, time to move on, talk to you later, bye. But it has given us an indication of who we may go for as a new CDM partnership with either McAllister or Ryan Gravenberch. And even as depth, it seems to be that kind of a player that Arne Slot wants, a ball-playing player rather than your typical destroyer. Is there anybody else in the market at the moment at the CDM position that you think could come in there and possibly maybe be somebody that flies under the radar that we've not been looking at yet?
I honestly don't have a name for you at the moment. Just seeing the Zubimendi stuff, kind of resurface again. It's kind of a common theme. Like these players that we don't end up getting, or you don't want to come to us, and we go a different path, and it works out for us. Like Caicedo, like, hey, you chose Chelsea, good on you, buddy. Enjoy that team over there. Zubimendi, enjoy those mountains over there. Now you're 15th in La Liga. Nice, good job, buddy. And we're hitting we're flying high over here, top of the Premier League. But it's turn down Liverpool at your own risk. That's what it is. I mean, we have such an impeccable transfer history in recent years. And I know we have a new manager this year, but like, look, what bad moves have we made? In recent like maybe the Nunez one right now, just because it's been hit or miss. But there's still a player there. It's just been a little rocky. You had I just think that's like Naby Keita, like just because he's injured so much, like that really didn't work out as well as you wanted it to. Even like an Oxlade-Chamberlain, like he still had a great run with us before his injury. Like he was still a tremendous player and had his spurts and moments. But yeah, it's I don't know. We are a little light in that midfield department, or as more of a defensive midfielder. I think it's really Gravenberch, and then of course you have McAllister, who can play in that role, but I think a little more forward is where he's better at going. And then you have Endo, who's he'll work his ass off, but I don't is very limited and has his limitations and stuff. So it's definitely something where come January, if we're still in a title race, we're still competing in all these competitions, and we really need to beef up our squad. You make a big splash, and you kind of add another piece to that puzzle, and then you really kick on from there. Especially if there's any sort of injuries, or stuff like that going on. You make that one or two moves where, as a club that's competing for trophies, that'll push you over the edge. The City side of this is, if Man City are interested in Zubimendi, they're making that move, because Rodri is out for the season, because they think that they can compete, across all their competitions. That's a move they would make, and that would be the most City move ever that they would make. But I'm definitely past Zubimendi. It's you made your own bed, dude, and I'll sleep in it. It's you wanted to stay over there, like go ahead. You could have been part of this project here, but I mean, I just it's frustrating in the moment, obviously, that we miss out on some of these players. But again, it just always seems to rectify itself and work out in a way. And I think I always enjoy that side of things. And now we'll pivot in a different direction. We have seemingly, it's a little early, but our hopeful long-term solution in Gravenberch, and then McAllister as well next to him. And I think we still need to bring in another player in that position, whether he'll directly challenge with Gravenberch or play alongside him, or whatever the role is for that player. I don't have I just don't have a name off the top of my head, but I'm not surprised to I wouldn't be surprised if there is more interest in a player in that position, and as we get closer to January.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. We'll start seeing some moves in January. I can have a look at it. That's just completely wrong. Our wage structure does not stop us from getting superstars. Our wage structure actually helps us get people, because Mo Salah is on £1 million a week. So yeah, we're paying Mo Salah £52 million a year. So no, that's nonsense. Our wage structure doesn't stop us from getting the superstars. It's completely the opposite to that. Just to go over a couple of comments that I've had a look from people. Paul here asking, will Zubimendi go to City though? If he's a smart boy and he's reading the news and sees how up the shit they are in that court case, he'll not touch City, regardless of whether Rodri's injured or not, because he's going to come back into a team in 12 months where now Rodri is the player that's there, and he's going to be benched to Rodri. Like, so you're cutting your nose off to spite your face there, realistically. I don't see a point in that. Jace mentioned in here, you all jumping on the mainstream media narrative that he turned us down. He didn't. Real Sociedad told him that if you want to move, you have to go and register at La Liga, so stop with the mountains and other crap. I mean, he told us eventually he didn't want to move. The club made him out to be the villain, and the club basically said, right, well, we're not going to let you go, so that you're going to have to force your way out. And the club were making him look like the villain, and them playing the "oh, pity us" card. We sold 2 other players, and we're going to be awful bad next year. You can't leave us like that. And that's essentially the card that they pulled, and it is the way that it is. He decided to stay. He said that he's happy there, and he's happy with his ambition there, and he's happy with Europa League, and that really, in my own opinion, told me everything that I need to know about that player. It's that simple. It's one of them that it's just very similar to Andre last year. He was like, no, I want to stay and finish out here. We were like, cool, moved on. As Jonathan mentioned, the Liverpool train stops once. It doesn't normally come back a second time, and the only time I've ever seen it come back a second time was Van Dijk. And there's a reason it came back a second time for Van Dijk.
And on Salah, we were linked to him before he went to Chelsea.
2 of the biggest world-class players at their positions, and possibly the best at their position in league history. That's the only time it's gone back twice. So unless you're that caliber of a player, you see the stop once and that's it. But the only reason we missed out on any targets that we know of this season is Anthony Gordon was literally at medical stage before Newcastle pulled the plug on that. And then also we were about to send Joe Gomez the other way. We would have got Anthony Gordon for £40 million net. Zubimendi literally said yes, and then decided to do a full 180 when he was told he'd be made out to be the villain if he left. And now he's going to be even a bigger villain if he leaves now, because they're in a relegation battle and they're not doing well in Europe at the moment. It's one of them that I don't see him leaving at all, because they could end it. The only way I see them leaving is if they get relegated, and even then they'll pull the sob story. Oh, help us get back to the Liga and we let you go then. He was also promised contracts and the sun, moon, and the stars, and he hasn't gotten anything on that yet. Varela, I'm not convinced there was any sort of thoughts on Varela at all. He had just signed a new deal with Porto. He was just made captain. I don't see Koku, maybe because of the previous links there with Arne Slot, but his release clause is nuts. It's 120 million euro, so I don't know how that would have been as well. And targets last season, the last summer, the one that we missed out on was Jude Bellingham, if memory serves. Not the summer just gone, but the summer previous. And the reason we missed out on Jude Bellingham is because his whole deal that he demanded was £500 million. The same money that we used to sign Dominic Szoboszlai was the same money that he got paid by Madrid for his signing bonus. He got 20 million, his dad got 20 million for some reason, and his agent got 20 million, and then he got paid 400 grand a week. James, that's it. Ederson, I don't know. See, because Atalanta lost Koopmeiners, I think that probably ship has sailed. I think they'll be asking for more money for him because they haven't really sent anybody through. Tyler Morton, possibly. He could leave. I don't think he will. It's just one. I don't think he will. I think he'll start getting minutes. Trent, Bellingham, Caicedo, Lavia, the guy who signed for Wolves. The guy who signed for Wolves told us no, and we went and got Ryan Gravenberch. We didn't miss out on him. He told us no, and he wanted to stay. We moved and we got a better player. Caicedo, we put a £115 million bid in for. He turned around and said, no, I want Chelsea. Bellingham, $500 million for over 6 years. And Lavia, he's not worth the money that Southampton were looking for at the time. And Chelsea came in and paid 20 million over the asking for us, over the asking price. If you thought Mbappe was coming, I don't know what to tell you there, man. Especially the second Klopp said he was going, that sunk that. There was no way that was happening. Szoboszlai did have a blinder yesterday for Hungary. Let's hope it keeps his shooting boots on for the weekend. He bags a couple, or at least bags a couple over the next couple of games, because he's been very hot and cold. Before we jump on to one of our last topics, which is one of these youngsters from Red Star Belgrade that we're going to have a look at, and a couple of other bits as well. I scour Twitter while we're chatting about it. But make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Make sure you have your notifications on for all future streams and videos so that you never miss out on it. And we've a lot of great content on there. The last thing that we did was a very, very big one, was the John Achtenberg interview. So make sure you get onto the channel and have a quick look at that. But just having a quick look down through the Twitterverse here in relation to any sort of details, nothing major realistically. If anybody has any questions, feel free to throw them into the chat. Something I found funny, however, was Ineos basically telling Sir Alex Ferguson to pack his bags and get out the door, which I thought was hilarious in my own opinion. It was just, yeah, you've been getting paid over 2 million quid a year. Good luck. We're not going to deal with you anymore.
Maybe Jim Ratcliffe ain't that bad after all.
Yeah, maybe he's an all right guy. But I think that was a really stupid move, personally. And what's this here from GM News? Best thing about the England hiring Tuchel is the fact that United's safest bet to replace Ten Hag is gone. Any upcoming managers will get eaten alive in that job. I think Tuchel would have gotten eaten alive in that job as well. I think he would have lasted a year and he'd have quit. He was interviewed over the summer, GM News. That was the thing. Tuchel was interviewed for the United job over the summer and he turned it down, along with Roberto De Zerbi, who decided to go and form the secret villain society down in Marseille. Tuchel turned the job down because he wasn't convinced with the control that he'd have, the project and the budget. And that's saying something, considering they then went and spent 200 million feckin' pounds in the summer on absolutely nothing. Like, Bayern were worried about how flexible. Yes, it's a closed horse, Paul. Black tires fucked. That's why. As much as I'd love to cycle, it's a closed horse. I need to get rid of it. But anyways, Bayern were getting worried about De Ligt's flexibility, and they basically packaged a left back into the deal for no extra money whatsoever. And all United fans were like, "Oh, this is a great deal. This is a great deal." Now he has a heart problem and he can't play like Eriksen. And I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ! All of this stuff would have shown up in medicals and everything like that. So it's absolutely hilarious to see that. But I'm going to have a quick look at the youngster from Red Star Belgrade. I have his name here, wherever it is. Where is the name? It is Andrea Masimovic is the name of him. He's a 17-year-old midfielder, attacking midfielder from Red Star Belgrade. He's originally Serbian. There's very little information on him because he's such a young player. But it's nice to see us sort of trying to future-proof that position, Kings, isn't it? We're looking at youngsters. We obviously have Szoboszlai in that position at the moment. We've Harvey Elliott behind him, and now we're looking at a 17-year-old that possibly could be there as well. So it's very interesting to see how we're going to start operating now under Slot and how we might start future-proofing a couple of different positions.
When I first seen his name mentioned, it was like, oh, okay, fair enough. I don't know a lot about the guy, like you say, because he's only young, so he hasn't done too much in the game as such. And then I seen the price quoted about 15 million, and it goes back to what I was saying earlier. You know, like if you're talking 10, 15 million pounds just for that kind of age youngster now as a prospect, then 25, 30 million for a standard player, that's how mad it's become. I mean, it is a bit steep maybe for a 17-year-old, but if the hype around him, I suppose, like we were going back with that 21-year-old, you know, with replacement Robinson, if the hype is that good and it turns out to be correct, then you have a really, really good player on your hands, and he's only cost 15 million pound. So it works both ways, I suppose. It could be a steal, or it could be a lot of money for somebody that just turns out to be average. And at this age, it's like you have good prospects, but when you properly get into full-time playing, first team, week in, week out, then your body will tell you if you're good enough. And it's sometimes it works out brilliantly and sometimes it doesn't. But as a player on it, for his age, I think he could come in and learn the ropes behind people like Szoboszlai and people like that, and then maybe just slot straight in. And if that's the case, and he does turn out to be that good, then it'd be a cracking signing, to be honest. It's just betting on that prospect, I suppose, isn't it? That's how it works out.
Yeah, it is. It is betting on the prospect. And something that's after coming across the Twitter that we're just having a look at there now. Rodrigo from the French magazine Le Foot, great name for a magazine. Rodrigo is not happy with his playing time at Real Madrid, with indications that a change of scenery could benefit his career. He was already mentioned at Liverpool as a potential Mohamed Salah successor. There's an 83.5 million price tag on him at the moment. Kings, would you take that if Salah was to go in the summer? Would you take that? Would you make a record signing to bring in Rodrigo from Real Madrid?
Yeah, probably, because again, as we keep saying, the average price is going up all the time. So is £83 million for potentially a top player? Is it that much nowadays? I mean, Harry Kane was 30 and he went to Bayern Munich for 100 million. And it's like, okay, he is scoring, but it's the German league, so it's less than the Premier League. I'm not knocking him as such. He's obviously a good goal scorer. You can't keep knocking him in like that if you're not. But £100 million, I thought was quite a lot. If he was to come, Salah, nobody's irreplaceable, as we know, because football moves on all the time. But 83 million really isn't that much. If they pretended they were interested in Caicedo for 100 million or 110 or whatever, then 83 million really isn't that big a deal. Does that make sense?
No, yeah, completely makes sense. Like, it's as everybody made the jokes about, like, where's the Caicedo money, John? It's one of them things that you just have a look at and you're like, look, the money is clearly there. Paul, you'd be shocked. Liverpool spend right on, if you look at the finances of it, Liverpool spend right on the money of what we're allowed to spend. It just so happens that other teams are overspending and now they're up to shit. Arsenal have 200 million in owner loans. City have 130 charges. Chelsea are getting sanctioned and they're expecting bans. And United spending money that they don't have because they're in the shit. If they miss Europe next season, they're in PSR and FFP trouble big time. They saving grace that they got Europe this season. Jonathan, I'll throw it over to you before we finish up with race on the Rodrigo question of 83.5 million, 10 million over, 12.5 million over our record signing, which was hilariously, I think it was Nunes. What do you think of that if Salah was to leave? Because I have some worries myself.
The only problem I really see is that he isn't fluent in English, I think. But we are buying a serial winner, just like Salah. He has won everything he can win, and he's been a big part of it as well. When they went to the final in Paris, he was the reason they went to that final. I think it would be a good signing for 83 million, but I'm tired of these players that don't talk English. I really am.
Yeah, no, I get it as well. Look, I don't mind it, to be honest. He could speak Mandarin and not a word of English if he scores
50 goals a season. He can talk whatever he wants.
He can speak Klingon for all I care, realistically, at that point. Race Rodrigo for 83.5 million. Is that too rich for your blood? As Paul mentions, he doesn't see FSG spending that kind of money. We have spent big before, but only in relation to players that are obviously going to be world class and world beaters. Your Van Dijks, your Allisons. What do you think on any sort of, is this just paper talk and international break and them having just wanting some clicks and rent is due, or what way do you look at it?
Well, I think I remember too when Fabinho first came to Liverpool, he didn't speak any English either, and he's drastically improved since then, I think. So always willing to improve him for some players. But Rodrigo, I mean, it's interesting. You compare, a price to Nunez, and like I think that's an interesting kind of talking point. Like you'd pay that much for Nunez, but would you pay that much for Rodrigo, who's is a more proven player? We're kind of right around the same age that Nunez was. Achieved more at the club level. Of course, he's at Real Madrid. Like, what player isn't going to achieve something at Real Madrid? So like, if you're comfortable paying, that much for Nunez, you're probably comfortable paying this much for Rodrigo. Like, I think that's kind of what it comes down to. And so I wouldn't be opposed to it. I mean, this is a real specialty case. If Salah leaves and this is kind of your one option to do, like, then, and he comes available and you make a run for it, then yeah, by all means, I wouldn't have too much of an issue of it. I would say our attack right now is, it's the strength of our team. I think in terms of just the players we have, Diaz, Nunez, Jota, Gakpo, and Salah, of course, right now. Like, if you're just able to kind of take one player out, although Salah, can't be underrated what he's, means to us, our club, in terms of availability and his goal scoring output. It's not just a plug and play type situation. But I think if you're going to be looking for the most Salah type like replacement in terms of goal scoring output, I'm not saying Rodrigo and Salah like the same type of player on the pitch, but like in terms of like, caliber of type player, I think this would be, one of those options, I would say. There might be other cases out there, but I wouldn't be opposed to it, but it does seem like a kind of a reach for me. It's kind of one of those, yeah, I don't know. I don't have too much weight into this, but in theory, the move it's not too far out of left field, but I think it's still a little unrealistic.
Yeah, I think it's unrealistic as well. I don't personally think that we'll go for it, but look, everybody can dream. Bear with me just one moment. Now, is that everything? Is anybody anything in the chat? Just having a quick look here. No. We are going to leave it there, guys. A little bit shorter than the hour, but we're going to leave it there. But I want to thank everybody for joining us. Just over 3,500 people watching across Twitter and YouTube. Make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Make sure you have your notifications on for all future streams and videos so that you never miss out as well. Lots of great content. We'll be back again later on tonight with our Star Stripes and Anfield Nights stream with our American friends. That'll be at 2 a.m. UK time or 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so make sure you stick around for that. But other than that, thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll talk to you guys tomorrow.